You've got character A thirsting after her fake brother and then dating her best friend who she has described as being like a brother to her, and then don't even get me started on her actual brother. What's up, book nerds? I'm Lucky's Universe, and in this week's video, I'm going to be rating fictional love triangles, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Before we begin, I'd like to point out that over time, our understanding of love triangles has become mathematically incorrect in a way. And by that, I mean that most relationships that we view as epic love triangles aren't actually triangles. We would normally associate a love triangle as character A being in love with both characters B and C, right? Or characters B and C both being in love with character A. However, looking at this from a geometry perspective, it's actually less of a triangle and more of a love V. Now, if character A was in love with characters B and C, and characters B and C were in love with each other, that would make a triangle. Or if character A was in love with character B in love with character C, and C in love with A. And that's enough geometry for me. What I'm trying to say is that most love triangles are actually love Vs, but for the sake of this video, we're going to refer to them as love triangles. Let's just pretend. I made my tea a little bit differently today because we found out that our kettle that boils the water was short-circuiting our power, so we had to unplug it, we can't use it. And so I made my tea in the microwave this morning, and I still don't know how I feel about it. I think it tastes different, but I can't tell whether it's good or bad. But I guess tea is tea. So what was I? Love triangles. Love triangles are used in stories to put it simply, cause conflict, because stories need conflict in order to drive the plot forward. Love triangles have been involved in a long love and hate relationship with the book community. When done well, they can be a great way to get readers invested in characters, but when done badly, they can come across as boring, cliche, and repetitive. Personally, I don't like love triangles. Even when they're written well, I've been reading almost my whole life, and a majority of that was occupied by romance novels, so I have read way too many love triangles to be interested in them anymore. Additionally, in a few too many stories, it becomes about a girl choosing between two guys and not her personal journey. I totally get why people love love triangles though, and when I was young, I did enjoy them. But as I've grown older, my tastes have changed. Just like when you get older, sometimes you find that you enjoy different food or different styles of music. The reason I'm saying this is because I just want to explain that the opinions I have on these love triangles now in this video will be different from the opinions I would have had on them when I was, say, 15. I'm stating that I am a 22-year-old woman who used to read a lot of YA fantasy and romance in high school, but now my tastes are more adult fantasy and classic literature, and I'm not romance focused anymore. This is the attitude that I have going in on this, so my ratings are just based on my opinions and are not an objective reflection of how good these love triangles actually are. The rating scale we'll be using today is the dependable 1 to 10 scale, with 1 being so deplorably awful that I would rather scoop my eyeballs out with a teaspoon than read about these characters, and 10 being this love triangle is so good it makes me want to tear my heart out in a good way but also skip through a field of daisies. This video will contain spoilers, so just keep that in mind. I will put a timestamp here, so if you haven't read any of the books, you can just skip to the parts that you want to watch. Right. Let's get into it. If you follow me on TikTok, you may have seen a 1-minute video that I made about why this throuple makes me want to drink bleach. Twilight is a YA supernatural romance about a girl named Bella who falls in love with a vampire named Edward and all the ridiculous complications that go along with that. Our third wheel is Jacob Black, who is a werewolf and the natural enemy of vampires. He's Bella's best friend and he's in love with her, and Bella's in love with him too, although honestly that point is up for contention. Let's start with character A, Bella. Oh, it's dust. Bella is the human embodiment of a Ryvita, and not even a multigrain Ryvita, just a plain one, like dry, tasteless, makes you want to choke, akin to the dry wheat bick, which is a tragic childhood memory for many Australians. Honestly, I don't know what Edward sees in her. All she does is bite her lip, read books, and think about how inferior she is. Plus, it takes her 4 friggin' ever to figure out that Edward is a vampire. Even though Edward is 100 years old, he couldn't see a dumb bitch if it ran him over with a truck. Character B is our beloved Edward, or as I like to call him, the guy who should have been the antagonist of this story. If you haven't already, go watch my previous video about bad boys so you can have a more in-depth understanding of why I think Edward is an awful person. In short, he's manipulative, controlling, and abusive. He also stalks Bella, which is supposed to be romantic, but actually it's just creepy. If that's not enough, Edward is 100 years old and Bella is 16. Think about it. Jacob is character C. If Bella is dumb bitch and Edward is stalker bitch, then Jacob completes our triangle of bitches with sad bitch. Jacob cannot seem to take a hint whenever Bella tells him to just let her date Edward, and has convinced himself that Bella loves him back and keeps manipulating situations to try and make her recognize her feelings for him, and consistently attempts to turn her against Edward, just like Edward consistently attempts to turn Bella against Jacob. Jacob's whole storyline is just whining about Bella, and then he gives up and dates her daughter. I'm so ashamed that I used to like this series. I still can't wrap my head around this tea. I made it in a microwave. Honestly, their whole dynamic is just weird. Even though Bella chooses Edward in the end, she has a very unhealthy attachment to Jacob and can't seem to live without him. She was even going to name her child Edward Jacob if it was a boy. Naming your child after your husband is one thing, but naming it after your best friend who's been making passes at you for God knows how long, kissed you without your consent and then guilt-tripped you into kissing him again, it's just... Plus he really hates your boyfriend, where's the logic here? Where's the logic? Just someone, where? Anyway, I rate this love triangle a solid 1 out of 10. It is, quite frankly, vomit-inducing. This triangle was short-lived and awkward. The Mortal Instruments focuses on a character named Clary Frey who discovers that she is part of a community of shadow hunters who hunt and slay demons. This love triangle exists briefly between Clary, her best friend Simon, and a shadow hunter who she meets named Jace. Character A, Clary, is kind of annoying. Not kind of annoying, she's very annoying. She has that YA protagonist habit of running into situations for which one has no experience, which in my opinion is just a really lazy way to create conflict in a novel, perhaps even lazier than introducing a love triangle. She just comes across as, in my opinion, a bit self-centered and just irritating. Character B would be Jace, the shadow hunter that Clary meets at the beginning of the story. They have the classic, I was mean to you, but I've been in love with you from the beginning kind of relationship. And for a hot minute they believed that they were siblings, but it turns out they weren't and then they started dating. Character C is Simon, Clary's childhood best friend who has been in love with Clary since the start of the story. They eventually start dating when Clary thinks that Jace is her brother, but then they mutually break up because they decide that their dynamic works better when they're friends rather than lovers, and deep down Simon knows that Clary is in love with Jace. So the elephant in the room is the incest. Now, Clary and Jace were never actually related. They were just tricked into thinking that they were, and readers knew the whole time that they weren't siblings. However, that doesn't make the fact that they made out and thirsted after one another while they thought they were brother and sister any better. Most of the book community are aware of Cassandra Clare's history with incest, and it just makes me uncomfortable reading Jace and Clary's romance in mainly the second and third book, because I feel like the incest angle was romanticized, and I don't know if that's appropriate for younger readers. I also just felt that in this love triangle, Simon was treated so badly, as a whole. I used to love TMI when I was in high school, but as I've grown up, I've started to recognize some of the issues with the series and have pretty much unstand, not just from TMI, but most of Cassandra Clare's books. And in terms of the love triangle, I generally don't like when character A dates character C in an attempt to get over character B, which is basically what Clary did with Simon. And this happens a lot in love triangles. All in all, TMI just made me uncomfortable. You've got character A thirsting after her fake brother and then dating her best friend who she has described as being like a brother to her, and then don't even get me started on her actual brother. It's the indirect incest for me, so I'd give it maybe like a 3 out of 10. Is it good? I don't know. I'm so so confused. I've never been this confused about tea. Continuing with our Cassandra Clare characters, we have Will, Jem, and Tessa from the Infernal Devices. Although I prefer TID over TMI, and again in high school I used to love this series, I have semi-understand from these books. The Infernal Devices is set in 1800s England and focuses on Tessa Gray, who discovers the world of Shadowhunters, a club that's trying to rule the British Empire, and two lovely young gentlemen who are as in love with her as she is with them. I don't hate this love triangle. I hate Tessa. Tessa combines the plain elements of Bella Swan and the annoying attributes of Clary Frey. Tessa's just kind of a meh character to me, and most of the plot is about her choosing between two guys, and she also does the same thing about, you know, dating one character to get over the other character. I feel like Will is character B because he's not the one that she officially ends up with, but he is the one that she was attracted to first. Will is dark, handsome, and sarcastic. I love him even though he can be a little whiny at times, and sometimes the plagued by self-hatred thing gets a bit old. I like that Will was in love with Tessa, but then once he found out that she was with Jem, he stopped making moves on her, because here on this channel we stan respectful kings. If Jem was a K-pop idol, he'd be my bias. I love Jem. He is the gentle, soft-spoken side of this love triangle and the one that Tessa ultimately ends up with. So what's wrong with this love triangle? The ending sucks. Tessa plans to marry Jem in what I feel is a disguised attempt to get over Will, but in a sad turn of events, Jem dies, and then after about 5 minutes, Tessa gets into bed with Will. The fact that they declared their feelings and got it on so fast after Jem's death just confused me to no end. Tessa was planning to spend the rest of her life with Jem, and Jem was basically Will's brother, but the first thing they want to do after he dies is hook up. Also, the fact that it happened so quickly, in my opinion, clearly means that Tessa and Will were harboring feelings for each other, and Tessa was dating Jem but still being in love with Will, and I just don't agree with that. Like, don't agree to marry a guy if you're still in love with another guy. Lastly, Tessa managed to get both of them in the end. Turns out, Jem's not dead. He's immortal, but he's now a silent brother, which I can't be bothered to explain, but through some plot device it means that he can't be with Tessa for a very long time. Not an issue. Tessa is also immortal, so she marries Will, who is mortal. They get married, have a bunch of kids, then Will dies, and after he dies, she goes back to Jem. As you do. Anyway, this love triangle just frustrated me, mostly because of Tessa, but I did kind of enjoy it because I'm not one to pass up a heaped teaspoon of yearning, so 6 out of 10. I'm going to go through these last two love triangles rather quickly because I'm realizing this is a very long video and my legs are falling asleep. I'm not going to explain the plot of the Hunger Games because I'm lazy. If you don't know what the plot is, maybe go and watch one of my previous videos when I compare the Hunger Games to The Selection, because I go over the plot in more detail there. So Katniss, character A, what's wrong with her? Nothing much really. Katniss is pretty cool. She's dealing with her shit, and I'm glad that the whole story isn't about her choosing between Gale and Peter. It was pretty much always Peter. She just needed to sort out her emotional issues first. Peter does a suitable job as character B. He knows about Katniss's feelings for Gale, but kind of just gives her space to do her own thing. Peter was in love with Katniss from the beginning, and then he got mad for a bit when he realized that Katniss was faking it, but he stuck with her and eventually got her in the end, so good on ya. Gale was like a slightly improved version of Jacob Black. Whiny at times and really needed to move on, but nowhere near as manipulative. However, compared to a lot of triangles, there wasn't really that much yearning involved, partly due to the fact that it's mainly a dystopian story and less of a romance. But still, it wasn't as gripping as other triangles, but 7 out of 10 for at least having non-shitty characters. Again, if you want the plot, go and watch the other video. I always felt like America, Maxon, and Aspen were the discount Katniss, Peter, and Gale, purely because of the similarity with like nice guy versus dark and handsome childhood best friend. Selection is one of my guilty pleasure books because even though I don't actually think it's that good characters or writing wise, I still did kind of enjoy it because it's a dystopian but it's more romance focused. America is, in simple terms, a Mary Sue. She's annoying, she's set up to be not like other girls, but she's really a basic bitch at heart, and most of the time I can't stand her. Maxon is pretty nice, he deserves way better than America, and also has his own emotional issues, what with him having to date 35 girls at the same time. Aspen barely has a character in this story. He exists purely to make up the other point of the love triangle, and most of the time I don't even know why he's in the story at all. Although the chemistry between Maxon and America was, in my opinion, pretty rushed, it was nowhere near as bad as whatever was between America and Aspen. Their romance meant absolutely nothing to me. I felt nothing, and I spent most of the time wondering, like, why was America even struggling between the two? And again, I just don't like characters who try to hide their feelings for one character by dating another character. America was playing Maxon and Aspen at the same time, but Maxon was also telling America he loved her whilst also forming emotional connections with other girls. Part of me thinks that's okay because in the story, like, Maxon's been raised to think that that's how you find love. And he also wanted a backup in case America decided that she didn't want to marry him. But I don't see why he couldn't have just maintained polite friendships with other girls instead of, like, making out with them. If you want to see if you have chemistry with other girls, fine, but maybe don't throw all of your love eggs at one girl if you're still planning on dating other girls. In America, maybe don't get mad at Maxon for dating other girls if you're still not sure if you want to marry him. In summary, although this is a guilty pleasure book, the love triangle just doesn't do it for me. 3 out of 10, sorry. It may seem like every love triangle in my eyes is awful, but I want to stress that these low ratings, it's just due to the fact that I don't usually like love triangles. I'm sure there are plenty of readers who adore these love triangles, and that is totally okay. Personal taste is personal taste. Read what you want to read. If you agree with my opinions, leave a comment, and if you disagree with my opinions, leave a comment. But just remember that on this channel, we support debate and not hate. Also, if you have any other love triangles you would like me to review, leave a comment down below and maybe I can make a part 2. If you don't already follow me on TikTok, go check that out. I post some pretty cool stuff on there. I will also leave a link to my Goodreads and my Twitter account below. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you later.